Hey, what's going on guys, Jerry here and welcome back to the channel. So okay, today's video might be a pretty interesting one, and I know you have already seen the title down below, but yes, I will be sharing with you my experience switching from an Android to now using an iPhone predominantly as my main smartphone device. Now firstly, this was not by any means an easy decision, as I was of course a pretty avid and a pretty dedicated user of Android smartphones. Secondly, this is not going to be a video that is an Android versus iPhone kind of video, which one is better. I'm just really here to document my experiences and to share it with you guys, so anyone who happens to be thinking of switching either way, they will know the experiences that I personally have. Now, as I said earlier, this was not by any means an easy decision to make, because I was pretty much a heavy and a dedicated user of Android smartphones, especially from the likes of Samsung, Motorola, LG, rest in peace, and of course OnePlus, which by the way, I happen to be still using my OnePlus 5T as my main device, my main Android device actually, for ever since it came out. And I don't know what it is about this device, but I just found it really hard to upgrade from it, and which is pretty crazy because we are now at what, the OnePlus 10, and I don't know, I might just now think about upgrading to the latest OnePlus or whichever Android smartphone for that matter. Anyways, back to the switching from Android to iPhone topic. Now, I want to provide some context before I go any further, so you guys can kind of see where my thought process is and kind of where I'm at right now. You see, I was sure that I would never ever switch to using an iPhone ever. And that, in all honesty, had to do pretty much with just really bad experiences that I had with Apple's earlier, much earlier iPhones. For example, the iPhone 3GS, which was my very first iPhone. Now, comment below if you happen to remember, you know, the earlier iPhone models and which one of the iPhone was your very first iPhone. But I wasn't a fan of the 3GS, the iPhone 3GS, and what Apple was doing back then. You see, they were exclusive with their devices. You know, I had to have iTunes to get music on my phone. I had to purchase apps from the App Store that my friends were pretty much getting those same apps for free on Android. I tried jailbreaking my iPhone at the time just to, you know, be able to add some form of customization, which really didn't end well. And even simple file sharing via Bluetooth with other Android smartphones was just never possible. Actually, I think that's probably still a thing. I don't know. Comment below if you happen to know. I am curious. I didn't actually try it. Plus, there was just many more just mind-boggling scenarios, which were more than enough reasons for me to just get rid of my iPhone and just go with Android without ever looking back. Plus, all my friends were all using Android smartphones at the time, so it was really a no-brainer. But fast forward to 2020, 2022. Now, most of my same friends who are still Android users to this day have already expressed their disappointment with me switching back to the iPhone, and I'm quite sure most die-hearted Android users are going to be of the same sentiment. But as a person who actually loves tech and just loves to try out the latest and the best, I really had to decide to just give the iPhone another shot. Now, a lot has really changed since my first iPhone back in 2008, 2009. And I wanted to see and also kind of document, as I said, what the experience is like now in 2022. Switching from being an Android user for years to now predominantly just using the iPhone as my main device. Now, first up, let's look and talk about the switching experience between Android and iPhone. Is it easy? How easy is that switching process? Now, to my surprise, it really wasn't as difficult as to how I had anticipated it to be, given that these are just two completely different operating systems. But Apple and Google has, I don't know, somehow made the transfer process fairly straightforward and painless, to say the least. All you need to have are access to both devices, of course, access to a Wi-Fi network and a app from the Android Play Store called the Move to iOS. And then you'll just follow the instructions with transferring all your data from your Android device to the iPhone, and then that's pretty much it. Now, a quick side note here. Ensure to backup and update all data apps on your Android phone before you actually switch, just to be, on the safe side. Now, the move to iOS app will actually help to transfer much of your existing Android data to your iPhone without ever having to manually transfer it or back it up on a computer. It can transfer your contacts, your message history, photos and videos, web bookmarks, mail accounts, and calendars, of course. And yes, this will copy over the photos that you backed up with Google Photos, which might be an overkill, but hey, having your photos saved to both your device and the cloud couldn't hurt. However, and this is a huge caveat here, there was one thing that I wasn't able to transfer at all, which really made me a bit hesitant to make the switch, and that was losing all my WhatsApp messages. Now, it really took me a while to process that, to be quite honest, and I'm not particularly sure why Apple didn't make it somehow possible, but I've done a lot of research to see if there was some way to get this done, but to the time of actually filming this video, there's still no official or easy way. So I eventually just decided to bite the bullet and I went ahead with the switch. Now, keep this bit of information in mind if having your WhatsApp messages are really important to you. Now that we've spoken about the switching process, let's speak of just my overall experience using an iPhone in this modern era. We're going to pretty much be looking at what I liked, what I disliked, and changes that I'm hoping to see come to the iPhone in the future. So, since getting my iPhone, I think it was the 12 Pro Max, and I started out with iOS 14 at the time, which was for the very first time after years of being just an Android user. Now, I figured that there was going to be somewhat of a learning curve to be had, and I would like to think that I can, learn new technology pretty quickly. But to be honest, even the not so tech savvy person wouldn't have much of an issue getting familiar with the iPhone. But I personally expected to hate the iPhone's interface with especially the lack of a back button. But I quickly realized that wasn't the case. You see, the iOS interface is somewhat similar enough to Android, and the transition to using it just completely took me roughly about 2 days or less. Now, one thing was definitely apparent from the get-go, and that's how much effort developers put into their iOS apps when compared to Androids. For example, there was one instance where I posted a video on my Instagram stories from my iPhone and one from my Android smartphone, which I think was the Samsung S20. And there was definitely a marked difference in terms of video quality. To put it simply, the video quality from the iPhone was just way better. I believe there's a particular reason for this. I'm not particularly sure how to explain it, but I think MKBHD did a video on this particular topic, and I'll try to find the video and leave a link to it down in the comment section or down in the description, so you guys can definitely go and check it out if you're interested to learn more. Now, another nice thing about the iPhone and iOS, and one that I really came to appreciate, and that's Face ID. Now, this lets users sign into their phone and access many apps using their face instead of a password, which to me was really surprisingly powerful and a very, very good time saver. Now, I did not miss how much time I had to spend putting passwords into various apps until something like Face ID just takes control. That pretty much allows me to open even very sensitive things like banking apps pretty much password free. Now, Apple has since updated the software for Face ID to work while wearing a face mask, which was really helpful. Now, before that, wearing your Apple Watch would have allowed you to pretty much unlock the iPhone while wearing a mask, which is gonna bring me to my next point. Let's talk about Apple's ecosystem. All right, so okay, I've mentioned earlier that I hated how exclusive the iPhone was back then when I had my very first iPhone. Granted, I didn't even own a MacBook at the time or a Mac computer for that matter. Things like the iPad, the Apple Watch, or AirPods were never a thing. It didn't exist. But fast forward to 2022 and we have a whole family of Apple products where everything just connects and speaks to each other so seamlessly and effortlessly, which is really amazing. Trust me, As simple as how this might sound, I can't begin to explain how good Apple's ecosystem is. Now, for instance, being able to start a task on one device, like your iPad, let's say, and then finishing it on your MacBook. Or, better yet, sending documents or files through AirDrop to any of your devices, which is just so fast and simple. Or even using an Apple Watch to unlock your iPhone. By the way, review on the Series 7 coming really soon, so get subscribed to see that video. But all of these different scenarios are just really a tip of the iceberg as to show how powerful the Apple ecosystem is, which has really streamlined and simplified many persons' workflow as well as mine, especially as a content creator. Now, although Apple's ecosystem is packed with really helpful features that you can benefit from, there are definitely some drawbacks to the beautiful, what they called walled garden that you must definitely be aware of. Now, first of all, you're going to be restricted by this ecosystem, and that's just putting it plain and straight. Take for instance, I have an Android box that I use at home, the NVIDIA Shield. Very awesome device, by the way. I absolutely love it and I use it pretty often. But if I want to cast something that's displayed on my iPhone to the Shield TV, I can't do that because they just don't talk to each other like a typical Android smartphone would. Now, it was tough at first and I kind of got used to it, but that didn't take away from the fact that I didn't like it and it was really inconvenient. Now, a workaround to that for me was to have an Android phone, of course, that I'll use from time to time for this purpose, or finding something else that will just work with my iPhone, like let's say the Apple TV, which actually is going to take me to my next drawback to this ecosystem. And that's the fact that it can get pretty expensive. Now, it's no secret that Apple's devices are really darn expensive. But as I said, the draw of Apple's ecosystem certainly drives people to purchase more Apple devices to really enjoy that convenience of just having everything in perfect harmony. Take me for instance, all right? I started out with the MacBook Pro, which was, acquired mostly for work purposes. But soon after, I realized that I could have the convenience of, sending files easily from my phone if I get an iPhone. So I did. It was great. But then I realized that, hey, I could have the convenience of just switching my earphones between my MacBook and my iPhone seamlessly. So what did I do? I got the AirPods. But wait, I could add more to this awesome experience. And so I got the Apple Watch. Now, you see how expensive it can get? At this point, I guess I might as well wear the Apple fanboy badge, but I don't think I'm quite there as yet because it really could get worse, trust me. The worst part of this though is the fact that all these devices use different charging methods that aren't cross-compatible with each other, much more cross-compatible with other devices outside of Apple's. No, these are just some of the quirks to the ecosystem that I found whilst using the iPhone that I definitely urge you to bear in mind before taking the plunge. But altogether, Apple's ecosystem is certainly a unique experience that you get when you have, a plethora of Apple devices. I did find that it works really well and was super reliable and convenient when I needed it to be. Okay, let me speak quickly on the gaming experience with the iPhone. Now, to be totally honest, I'm not the heavy mobile gamer kind of guy. However, I do occasionally like to enjoy a few games on my phone to, pass some time ever so often. And the iPhone has not disappointed in this area for me personally, which, might be an easy achievement for the iPhone, given that I'm not so much of a, demanding player. But even for those that might be, more of a heavy mobile gamer than myself, I think the newer generation iPhones especially will stand the test. With Apple's fast and powerful chipset, paired with a well-optimized operating system and now faster refresh screens, were more than enough for me personally to, enjoy a good game of Apex Legends and Call of Duty. And oh yeah, the fact that I was able to pair my PlayStation 5 DualSense controller to my iPhone to really, get the best experience was just awesome. But generally speaking, when it comes to the gaming experience on an iPhone or an Android, is actually one that's debatable, as I find that I can pretty much get as good as an experience on an Android smartphone. So for the most part, I'm pretty pleased and happy that I decided to, give the iPhone another shot. And I absolutely don't regret waiting this long to make the switch either. The experience is miles better than what it was 10 years ago. Everything just feels well thought out. Updates have been consistent, especially now with iOS 16, which is now giving users some more welcome added features. Securing users' personal data has also been treated with, some sense of importance. The pristine build quality of the iPhones are just really top notch, and all this just adds to me having a really good experience. I've yet to actually see a hiccup, a stutter or a delay when opening and using apps on my iPhone. Now, don't get it twisted. It's not perfect. It's really not. And there are definitely some weaknesses that I've seen that Apple is definitely going to need to get sorted, which I'm actually going to save for my final review of the iPhone 13 Pro. But for now, as it stands, I switch between Android and iOS quite frequently. Though the more I use the iPhone, the more I'm actually convinced to make it my main phone. I guess we'll see. Anyways, that's pretty much it for this video. But if you're interested in more iPhone content, then why not check out my unboxing and first impressions of the iPhone 13 Pro that I did. Alright, it's gonna be found right here.